Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Gunn Show. If you're watching right now on YouTube or the MTD website, you see two incredibly good-looking people on my screen. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple, Google, I'm going to have to describe their characteristics so you'll know how amazing they are. But first, if you've joined us for the first time and you tuned in through Google and you're like, man, the Gunn Show, I want to learn about muscles, you're not in the right place. I don't have any muscles. Author does. And Liz just might too, I believe. And then if you tuned in for guns, it's just a play on my last name. I don't have any of those either, so I apologize, but I hope you stay. I hope you stay for a long time and many episodes to come. But this show, The Gunn Show, is a play on my last name, Tony Gunn, and it is about humanizing manufacturing, everything around us. I mean, think about it. Look around you right now and tell me, other than the air, maybe some nature, and the humans, what wasn't touched by manufacturing? And we're here to introduce you to the personalities behind the scenes that make the world around us. And before we talk with Liz a bit further about how the heck she got here, I want to thank Author for joining me today as my co-host. Author, thank you so much for being here. Unmute your thing and say hi to the audience. There you go.
I'm so excited for the opportunity to co-host with you, man. Not since Florida have I been on the same podcast, and this is going to be awesome with Liz. This is great.
Yeah, well, when we did this in Florida, it was way different because we did like a marathon, a 15-minute per company marathon, and it was blah blah, right after one another. And you called me the other day. We called each other the other day and said, "Is it going to be like that?" I'm like, no. That was weird. That was unique. That was for a different situation. We got Liz for a full hour today. How do you feel about that?
I think it's great because I get to learn more about Liz's journey, and she gets to share it all here, man, with everyone watching and listening in. That's a beautiful thing.
And if we get into it, Liz, you are not limited to an hour. We can talk for 5 or 6 hours if you'd like to. Totally up to you. But before we get into Liz's story, we have to thank our sponsors, because without our sponsors, we wouldn't be here. We can't do this job. We wouldn't be able to afford to travel the world, to bring these great guests online, to showcase their stories. So let's start with IMTS and AMT. Thank you so much. We have you on our shirts again this year in 2025. We love you. We appreciate you. Shout out to Bonnie and MC, two of my favorite people, but the entire AMT team. Ebita Grow Systems, Dave and Mike, we appreciate you as well. The Shop Rescue Series. For anyone out there who has not heard about Ebita Grow Systems, they are a consulting company that will come into your shop and guarantee they will double your profits within 3 years. I mean, why wouldn't everyone do that? It just blows my mind, that guarantee. On top of that, this year we got the NTMA joining us. So Roger, shout out to you. Really enjoyed doing the opening and closing keynote at your recent Engage. We have also, surprisingly and amazingly, AMDM. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is the association down in Mexico who run TECMA, the largest and grandest trade show in all of Mexico that's inspiring all of this reshoring support that goes along with the, or nearshoring that goes along with the reshoring, plus all the work that's coming over from Europe and Asia to Mexico. Mexico is really doing great things right now when it comes to manufacturing. We can talk about that at some point. It's kind of fun. Also, the American Precision Museum. If you haven't been to Vermont, get your butt up there. If you can't get to Vermont, head over to YouTube. We did an hour-and-a-half tour, one-on-one, and it is incredible. Go watch that video. We have Shop Floor Coffee right beside me. I honestly don't drink a lot of coffee, so I apologize, Shop Floor friends. But I know a lot of people do drink coffee, and that stuff is delicious. And why just go buy coffee for a conglomerate that doesn't care about you when you can support manufacturing? A percentage of the proceeds from Shop Floor Coffee goes into manufacturing. And the last thing is Revelation Machinery. If you're looking to resell any of the machines in your shop, Revelation Machinery is the go-to system to make sure it's organized. Both the client and the receiver of the machine are going to get a good deal. Everyone's going to win. Let's put it that way. All right, I'm done. I'm done with that part, Liz. I am excited to learn about you. Well, I know a little bit about you already, but I'm excited to learn about you. And I'm pulling up your LinkedIn page. I didn't give you warning about this, but that's the reason I was looking down just now. For everyone who's watching, I got a cheat sheet. But I pulled up your LinkedIn page. And Liz, I'm going to do this to the best. Eddie Saunders is a good friend of ours, and he is the announcing king. And I cannot hold a candle to his superstardom by any means. But I'm going to do my best with my froggy throat here. Liz Shovlin Burnet, leading empowered teams to drive growth in manufacturing, award-winning marketer, advocate for WIM, or Women in Manufacturing, marketing, sustainability, manufacturing, innovation, marketing lead, okay, that's incredible. And I was scrolling through your page with my cheat sheet before we hit record on this thing. One thing that stood out to me is bachelor's degree, master's degree, but you went to a school in Ireland? Is this true? We have to start here. You went to university in Ireland?
I did, but only for like 6 months. So
don't care. That counts. Still counts. Still counts. Absolutely. What did you learn there?
A lot about Irish history.
That's awesome. Why did you decide to do? Are you Irish descent?
I am Irish. I'm an Irish citizen too. I'm a U.S. and Irish citizen.
Are you married?
I am married. Yes, my husband is not. In order for him to become one, we have to live there for 3 years. I have researched it.
Yeah. So I come from Scottish descent, and I'm trying to get mine as well. Scottish and Norwegian. So I asked the married question because those conversations, can I get in too? I snapped my fingers because I was gonna propose to you just now. I hear Arthur laughing, not laughing. This is how the podcast go, Arthur. Welcome to a 1 hour podcast.
Oh, we're all in for a hoot with this much laughter, man. This is great. Yeah.
This is how we enjoy ourselves and have fun, and I think for a long, long time, and I know, Liz, we're gonna share your journey. Don't get me wrong, but I know you also want to talk about a little bit of the labor shortage, skills gap. I think for a long time, manufacturing has been considered this, misfit. If I can't get into college, if I have to get a job, and I'm not good enough at other things, and it's boring and it's dull, and and at its best, it's a bunch of engineers that overthink all the time and don't have much of an outgoing personality, so we don't get the credit that we all deserve in manufacturing. So what we're doing here now, telling these jokes, having fun, shows how much fun manufacturing is. I think that's part of our duty. Duty. Just kidding. I'm sorry. I had to do it. All right, Liz. Let's get into your story. I'm using my cheat sheet here. And you have quite the background, quite the experience. Marketing manager, national product managers, director of sales and marketing, director of marketing, marketing lead. What do you think about manufacturing? And was that your goal when you first graduated, was to get into manufacturing?
Not at all. Not at all. I had aspirations of getting into, fashion or PR or something like that. I was a English major and eventually went for business. So no, not at all. I fell into it. And I feel like that's what I hear from so many other women in manufacturing too. It's like an accident, right? But then we stick with it because we realize it's not all the things you just said. And maybe, you can't say it, but I can say it. One of those things you forgot is it's not for women. That's one thing we've always kind of felt or heard about. But I fell into it and I started working way back when for a Mastercam reseller. And then eventually, a couple years ago, I was at Mastercam. So it all comes full circle and, we're all back together again. So it's cool.
It's amazing to hear you say that. And I'm going to tell a quick story, super quick, of my first manufacturing job was in precious metals. And 50% of that place was women. So when I first got into manufacturing, I was ignorant as hell about we need more women in manufacturing because that's all I saw. My department was like 70% women. And maybe that's because women are so good at like managerial roles and memorizing and like, I don't want to say dainty because maybe the man's hand is more rough, or I don't know. I'm saying this all wrong. But regardless, we were in jewelry. We were playing with small objects, diamonds, stones, rings, all of this. And the majority of the people there were women. So I was ignorant. I didn't know any better. And as I've learned more and traveled the world and participated in this, I hear stats about the percentages of women. But if we could inspire 6% more women to join manufacturing, our skills gap will be instantly gone. And these are the type of things that inspire me to want to advocate for women, advocate for diversity, advocate for the veterans that are coming home from war, advocate for all these people who need a voice because manufacturing is so important. Would you agree, Arthur?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't know that about the first shop you worked in when it came to the percentages, but the first shop I started in, it was back in Ontario in Canada, and we had like 50-50 women to men for operators. So my first shop, I was just like, oh, it is for women. Like, Okay, this is cool. I some of my first mentors were older women that were really good with precision measurement, and they would teach me how to use a micrometer with a little more finesse, teach me how to put an insert screw in without, stripping out the threads because I was a little heavy-handed. I've got some big mitts. So yeah, it's funny, but I agree. It's important to advocate and to bring conversation and to bring awareness because I was ignorant. I thought I knew it all, and I was wrong. So this is a perfect platform to be able to do more of that. And I mean, Liz is a shining example of the different careers women can have and keep growing and keep loving their lives.
Hey there, manufacturers. Need to sell your surplus CNC machinery? Whether it's vertical machining centers, CNC lathes, or machines from top brands like Yazda, Matsur, or Watchon, let me introduce you to Revelation Machinery. If you've never worked with a used machinery dealer before, here's what you're missing. Selling equipment on your own can mean long waits, low offers, and lots of time chasing leads. Revelation Machinery changes the game, bringing nationwide exposure to your machines. Their team is located across the USA, so wherever you are, you've got a local expert on your side. Revelation doesn't just list your equipment, they use targeted marketing methods to get your machines in front of serious buyers. Revelation Machinery is committed to fair pricing, full transparency, and taking care of the details. From paperwork to logistics and even rigging if you need it, they're there every step of the way so you're not juggling any part of the process alone. Ready to let a trusted partner handle the heavy lifting? Head to revelationmachinery.com/The Gunn Show to see how easy it is to turn that surplus machinery into cash with Revelation Machinery. Liz is for sure a bright star. I agree with you 100%. Liz, you've been doing this a while now. Do you have any stories? Because I'd love to hear. Do you have any? So I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of almost learning in opposites, duality, right? So do you have any really great stories that you've loved during your journey? And also, in its opposite contradiction, horrible stories that almost made you leave.
I probably won't tell you the horrible ones.
Oh, come on. That's so much fun. You know how many people are watching right now going, I agree with Liz. I had a bad time too. We like to talk about it.
Yeah, I've had so many great stories. I mean, one of the things is like, I feel somebody asked me the other month, like, do you have a mentor? And did you have a mentor? And because it's so important when you're younger to have somebody to help you and look up to and just like teach you like, the basics things like how to use a fax machine, right? If you're my age, it's not, second nature, right? But also to like teach you about a meeting and when it's important to speak and when it's important to be quiet. And, if you're talking with an engineer versus if you're talking with an operator, like what's the best way to do it? And that's not something you just know. You have to learn it. You have to do it. And it really, really helps if you have somebody teach you how to do it. But for me, it's like, I'm like, no, I can't think of one single mentor that I've had. It's a whole series of mentors. And I feel like I'm really lucky in that situation. But I also wonder in manufacturing, is that a little bit of the same? Because of, like you were talking about the changing workforce and I think it's been nicknamed the silver tsunami and all that. There's a big like gap in the age of the workers that are around. So I wonder if it's a little bit in manufacturing, we have this awesome blessing to have all of these people to look up to for the younger generation that's coming in behind you and me.
Gosh, I hope they look up to us. I'm such a mess. I'm not even sure they do, but I see why they would look up to you for sure, and probably Arthur.
Yeah, I'm still looking up to others, right? I feel like we always feel like kids. I'm not ready to be a mentor yet. I want to be menteed.
Right here, I'm still like 23. It's just every time I look in the mirror, I'm like, who's that guy? Nah. Sorry, I have to do it. You mentioned something just now that I also can appreciate and mentorships. Where would we be without these people in our lives? And then this labor shortage and getting people excited. I heard a stat, Liz, and I get all my stats completely wrong. So anyone who's listening and watching right now, just research. I bet I get it like 40% right. the boomer generation and the millennial generation, and then I run out of all the different letters for all the other groups, so I apologize to all the other groups out there. I just call you amazing people. They had there's a larger population of those groups, right? The Gen X generation, for whatever reason, there's just less of us. There were less babies born during that time. So there's actually a conversation of labor shortage skills gap only being at a lesser level just due to the population that exists. But the percentage of people in manufacturing has always remained the same based on the population of each of these groups. So as the boomers retire, which we're going to miss that silver tsunami. That's what you called it, right, Liz? That silver tsunami. Yes. And the Gen Xers become these mentors, even though I believe that every single one of us is both a teacher and a student to everyone else. But as we become these mentors, that gap that we're talking about is going to get filled, and we're all going to pat ourselves on the back and be like, we were such great advocates, but it might just be due to population. It might just be the fact that these other generations have more people in them.
Yeah, could be. It could be. I guess we'll have to wait and see, right?
Well, that's inevitable, I think. We will wait and see. Tell me more about your experiences in manufacturing, Liz. And author, I don't want to steal this whole thing. So whenever Liz is done with this question, I want you to slide in here because you're incredible as a host and a co-host. I'm sure you do. But as we talk about your journey, I think it's important because I would consider myself the cliche manufacturer. And what I mean by that is I'm the old white man. I am the old white man, and here we are. So I can only advocate because with certain things, but I can inspire other people to share their stories because representation is everything. When we see ourselves in someone else, that matters to the people who are receiving the information. So I'd love to hear more about why you believe more women should get into this career instead of a more well, you wanted to get into fashion to start, right? So we're accidentally here. So something more traditional like that, why would a woman want to hop into manufacturing?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's been looked at for a long time, not only by women, but also by students rising, up and coming into their careers, or other men, other, demographics, whatever, fill in the blank. Manufacturing has not been looked at as a career for a lot of people, and especially for women. So for me, it's helped me to build a life for my family, and to figure out my future with tons of different opportunities. And I've chosen a path in marketing, and there are so many different avenues then that you can go. You can go to product, you can go to brand, you can go to communications, you can go to sales, you can go all sorts of different ways that you might not expect when you think about manufacturing, right? So I think that's part of the problem. It's just not thought of as a career, as a full-time, a long-term initiative that is for both women and men.
How, and I know, author, you have questions, but how do you think it's viewed if it's not a long-term career, like just a temporary or an act? Like how's it viewed?
Yeah, I think it's changing. So I'll preface all this with, I do see a lot of movement. You and I, and all three of us, I think we're at IMTS. I think we probably heard by now this stat that, 2 years prior, they're like 8% women. And then this last year, I heard they were like 29%. Again, stats are wrong, just like you, but we got to look them up. But they're a lot better. But I think just changing the conversation and illustrating the fact that it may be perceived as a temporary job. It may be perceived as something for somebody who's not willing or able to go to college, as you said at the beginning of the podcast. I think it can be viewed as dirty, dangerous. One of my connections recently wrote a book about her story in manufacturing, and I think it's called Dark, Dirty, and Dangerous. And it's like, what a good summary of how we picture this. And when I took my first job, I was like, oh, it was more software related, but I was thinking like, this is not what I envisioned. This is not the glitz and the glamour I thought I would, go for. But once you're, walking like on an airplane or something at some point while it's being built. That's so cool. And that's something you never thought you'd see. And it's so much better than any kind of fashion job or whatever that you wanted to have anyway.
Well, we really start respecting that type of stuff when the plane starts crashing, right? And then we're saved.
Absolutely.
Like some engineer, like the wheel comes and starts working. And like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, thank you so much, engineers out there.
Yeah. When I'm on the flight, I'm not thinking about any of those times I saw how they're building it. Absolutely.
I have personally been into the largest tier 1 aerospace company manufacturer in the world, and I won't give any details about some of the specs of how they're being made, but I'm just grateful that the planes are working.
Yeah, I think I've been to that same one, and the thickness of the window on the wall is absolutely shocking for anybody who's not seen it. Do not Google it.
But you can go to the MTD YouTube page, and we have a video there, so take a look. Take a look. Arthur, all right, buddy. I'm sorry. I've stolen most of this thunder here. Go for it.
So you're the shining star, man. You're always so humble, but I'm here for you. I'm here for Liz. I'm not here for me. I'm glad that people put up with me. But I love what you were saying, Liz, about just you don't always see the different things that are part of the manufacturing sphere, right? Like the different avenues that you could be, like yourself going through the marketing, advocating for that awareness to bring more awareness to what manufacturing has to offer and for the products that you support. But I wonder, what challenges have you had as a woman getting into manufacturing? I know you've been on the softer side, but have you had challenges coming through?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think any woman in manufacturing over the last, 20 years or so, I guess it's been a little less than that, 15, we'll say the same.
Yeah.
And, spending time in the oil and gas field, and I worked for a components manufacturer for a long time. A lot of times you're the only woman that's in the room, right? And that alone can be challenging, or for any underserved, underrepresented demographic, that can be a challenge to be alone in a situation.
Yeah, definitely. And I know it's different than, you've had different experiences than Tony and I when we got in. We're talking about all these women. We didn't realize it was a thing. But have you, how has manufacturing, how has that changed? Because you've been in now, you said 15 years, right? So what changes have you seen?
I've seen a lot more women step up and into leadership roles, and I've seen the conversation change in general. Now there's so many advocates out there, and I try to advocate for my peers and other women in manufacturing, things like that. But there are people who have made careers of this and have made it their really life's purpose and mission to help women find longevity and a future in manufacturing. And that's, for me, that's the biggest change that I'm seeing. More and more women taking leadership roles, being considered for leadership roles, and feeling more comfortable as well to speak up. And now we're not alone, right? I don't think I've been on a team in a very long time, or even seen a team in a very long time where there is a singular woman on a team, which is super cool. Super cool.
This is Shop Rescue.
Hi, I'm Matt Schramm. I'm the Vice President and General Manager of Juergens Inc., worldwide work loading and fixturing company. Juergens really helps small manufacturing shops, because typically what you're seeing in small manufacturing shops today is they have high mix, low volume production. So what we can really help them do is on setup time reduction. I think this is more than just about the manufacturing community. It's trying to get people outside the manufacturing community aware of what's going on as well too. And I'm hoping that people recognize the value that manufacturing provides for the U.S. I mean, there's so many small manufacturing shops that start in garages and grow out of it. And I think we can really help support those people and the manufacturing community and outside the manufacturing community as well for the long term.
Well, Liz, I really love hearing about your firsthand experience where you're seeing those changes. So now you're not the only woman in the room, and you're not seeing that. But I had a question as well. I noticed when Tony was kicking it off, he talked about your involvement with WIM. What inspired you to be part of that organization?
You stole my follow-up question, by the way, because I was going to give a huge shout out to WIM, actually, and what they've done for women in manufacturing.
Yes, and it's such a great organization. I would love to be more active too. That's one of my New Year's resolutions, since we're here at the beginning of the year, is to be more active in some of the industry groups that I'm in, but it's so hard, as you know, it's such a challenge with your family and your work and all this. But they're an excellent organization. And the reason I joined is because of that fact that at that time, I've been a member for a long time. I was looking for more of a community of women who were also participating in manufacturing and dealing with, some of the different customers and different, supply chain challenges and all of that kind of thing that we've looked for. But I found a little bit of a community there. I'm in the Eastern PA division, has great leadership in that division. Susan Brom is I think the leader of that chapter, I think we call it. And they really advocate for more women to come into manufacturing. They help with the branding of manufacturing. They get out there, they give tours, they have a lot of education, and they have new initiatives now that I'm really excited to see. You guys have probably seen it, the allyship initiative that they've put out there. They've got an upcoming event for being an ally to women in manufacturing, which I think is part of the changing conversation and something that we need to have. So
how can we as not women also advocate with you to support something like that?
I mean, I think just having the conversation is the first step to be able to talk about it, recognize it, and say that, we recognize that it may be a challenge to be the only woman in the room, and maybe, you give somebody a little more support in that moment or something like that, but also to participate in these different types of events and learn from the professionals who will teach you how to truly advocate, but also be aware of any, biases that you may have in the hiring process, in the, supply chain process, and take a moment to consider the best person for the job rather than, the most comfortable person for the job.
Have you ever experienced that personally? I mean, we all say it, and I've done a lot of hiring and firing in my day, and I've never personally done that. But have you seen that in your experience?
I have, and I don't know that it's really ever intentional, right? That happens.
The unintentional one, okay.
Right? But it's like it's just, and we all do it, and right. And I've probably done it too. I've probably leaned more toward hiring a woman because I'm more comfortable with a woman in a role or something like that. So we all do it, but I do try to, be really cognizant of that fact. And because I am pushing that message so much, I have to check myself too, to make sure, okay, are we thinking about gender here? Are we thinking about anything else? Really, let's look at this objectively and figure out who is going to be the best fit for us as a company.
I got two statements, both kind of silly but fun. One is I'd love to be the only man in the room. I think that'd be great. And second, I know it's a little bit different, but I'm okay with that. Second, I guess I know all of these bias exist in hiring and firing and subconscious, but I grew up with like 7 sisters and 9. I mean, I got so many of them, right? And I've always just felt comfortable. So for me, in my experience, because you mentioned, I feel comfortable around women, so I would probably lean toward hiring a woman. Right. For me, if I'm hiring somebody to lift concrete, I'm looking at someone's physical experience. If I'm looking at someone who needs to be a critical thinker, I'm looking at a resume to see what critical thinking experience they have. But I've never gone about my interviews just based on, because my family, we have like 12 of us in it. So I got like 4 brothers and like 7 sisters, 8 sisters. It keeps growing. I don't even know. I keep saying, but I think because of that, I've had the opportunity. But to be fair, to your point, I think subconsciously and accidentally, I've done it as well. And I think that's having a real moment with ourselves to say, even when we think we're not doing something, to check ourselves and see if we are. And I value your statement, and I'm certainly going to take that into consideration for myself. I think half our MTD team is our women. We were almost 50-50 at IMTS, and if I look over to the UK, we got some wonderful women. Lindsay's, I think, our most famous person over there. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you, and we need to advocate more. And I want to do as much as I can. Do you have you ever been on? Hold on, I got something here. Have you ever been on this show?
No, I have not, but perhaps one day.
Well, Megan Zemba, I know you watch and listen to the Gunn Show. So you're watching and listening to this right now. This is my woman, Liz. Get her on Mavens of Manufacturing. Art Author, your turn, buddy.
Yeah, I like the reflection you were doing there, Tony. Just something, and it's related to, you know, men and women, but it's with my two stepchildren. I'm stepfather to a boy and a girl, and I had to start introducing about 6 months ago is, would I have the same reaction to them if it was the other kid? Because I noticed a preference. I was starting to prefer, I would react differently. And I'm like, well, look, they both deserve the same dad, right? Like I need to show up the same. And so it was a moment where I had to reflect on that. So I think it's an important conversation for manufacturing, but also as parents and step parents and leaders in the workspace or in your own lives, in your communities. It's a good time to double check. Like, would I feel the same if it was a man? Would I feel the same if it was a woman? If not, it could be a bias kind of creeping in.
Accidentally. Yeah, accidentally.
Yeah.
All right, Liz, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here because they're fun. And I did give you warning ahead of time, right? I sent you a list. A lot of times on this show, we really just wing it, much like every single interview I've ever done, just about. But I'm scrolling through here, and I'm curious about a few of these that I think will be fun. And one of them is, if you could swap jobs with anyone in manufacturing industry for a day, because you've always done the marketing side of things, but if you could switch, maybe run a machine, maybe be in the tool room, maybe whatever it might be, who would you switch with for a day and why?
It would totally, right now, probably next week, maybe I'll have a different idea. But right now, it would be a machine operator, because I was watching, I was actually an MTD video the other day. I was like, you know, I've never run a machine. And I'm like, how have I gotten by without doing that for so long? So now I'm super inspired, and I'm looking up classes, and I'm thinking about, like, maybe, you know, trying it out and taking some classes at night and giving it a shot, but we'll see.
Oh, I love that answer.
Yeah,
I would love
fun,
to see
right?
you do that. And if you do, I mean, I want you back on the podcast anyway, but if you do, you're guaranteed a spot back on this podcast, because I want to hear that story.
For sure. Absolutely.
Okay, Arthur, I'm going to ask you the same question, even though you're co-hosting with me today and we're learning about Liz. But if you could switch with anyone in manufacturing for a day, who would you switch with?
Oh, anyone in manufacturing? Like any role? Because we were just talking about the diversity of the roles.
Yeah, let's have fun with it. Whatever you want.
I don't know if it's a specific human, but to swap just for a day to be the CEO of a cutting tool, like a global cutting tool company, I think that would be really interesting. I would love to have the perspective that would give me as to just the magnitude of work it takes, the responsibility that's required to be at the head of an organization that large. I would love that opportunity.
That sounds like a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I'm already stressed out just thinking about it. Oh, man. And well, at least it's just for a day. You can be like, man, I'm tired of that. I'm out of here.
Yeah. But can I flip it on you, Tony? If you had someone.
Who would I switch with for a day?
Yeah.
So I'm on the media side of things now, right? Accidentally, don't know how I got here. But happy to be here and happy to help people share their stories. I would go back to being a machinist again. I would, if I could just take that time to go back to the shop floor. And I've always had, and I advocate for this regularly, but I've always had great pride in taking a piece of raw material, of any material, whether it be a precious metal or a steel or an aluminium for our UK friends, or whatever it might be, and making it into something that helps someone, or make, you know what I mean? Like, I would love to work in a manufacturing plant for, say, the medical field for older generations, or even like myself these days with all my soccer injuries, making hip replacements and knee replacements, or some of those folks out there who are changing lives by offering colorblind people the ability to see color, or people who can't hear the ability to hear. I would love to do, or even in the green world, something to make this earth better. But it would be to make something on the manufacturing side of things. I would love to participate in those boardrooms of R&D, of how we can do it, the creativity that goes behind, this is the idea, but how we can make it practical and real. Like, that stuff to me is so much fun to do, and I loved doing it.
Look, right now, kids are looking at what they're going to be doing in the future, and some of them don't even know what a career in manufacturing could look like. So what we're trying to do is support organizations and initiatives that are telling kids what a career in manufacturing is. So help us give back by purchasing Shop Floor Coffee. You can find us at shopfloorcoffee.com. We're on LinkedIn. Contact us. Let us know how we can support you and your organization.
Was that good enough for you, Arthur?
Yeah, so. It kind of. No, that's
How do I
awesome.
disconnect you from my? Just kidding. Love you, buddy. All right, Liz, I got another fun question for you, and I think this one works well just based on a lot of the other conversation we've had, and again going back to the fact that I'm the cliche old white man, right? Because your perspective will be different from my perspective, and that question is, what's the funniest myth or misconception that you've heard about manufacturing? Because I think this answer will help some of the women out there because they see themselves in you.
The funniest is tricky. The most untrue, I would say now, is like the dark, dirty, dangerous.
The D's, the 3 D's, right?
Yeah. But the funniest, I mean, but now we could kind of think it's funny, especially because things are changing. Maybe it wasn't always true, but that it's all like, you know, thinking of Shop Floor Coffee, like crusty old coffee pots and everybody's smoking cigarettes on the floor. And it's just not like that anymore. Like there's OSHA and all that good stuff. So we can't do that anymore.
To be fair, though, my very first mentor was that exact person you just described. About 15 cups of coffee per day, cigarettes outside on every single break, and he was a brainiac and taught me everything about programming.
And they're the best teachers too, right?
Oh, the best. Yeah. Grumpy as hell, but the best. Exactly. Don't catch this dude on a bad day. He'll slap you. And that's against OSHA too, but he doesn't care. I'm going to dive into this as well because I love this question, and something to me that's the funniest myth or misconception currently is this idea that everyone in manufacturing is like a dropout and can't get into a university or do something better, quote unquote, for their lives, right? Because I've done so many interviews at these trade schools. There's valedictorians that have chosen to be a part of the trades. They realize that an ROI at a university is expensive and difficult to get these days. Trades has gaps. They could immediately start supporting their community and their nation by doing it. That these choices are responsible choices, well-researched choices, not just, what can I do? You know, I just got my GED, school's not for me, and I'm going to go make something. No. There's brilliant people. And we said this earlier about, you know, engineers and stuff. Have you ever heard that joke? How can you tell when you're speaking to an outgoing engineer?
They look at you.
Close. Instead of looking at their own feet, they look at your feet. That's an outgoing engineer, right? So these people are mind-blowingly brilliant. And if those of us who are a little bit extroverted, like the three of us, can share their stories, this creates an environment where people go, oh, shoot, I thought it was just for dropouts, not for the valedictorian. So that, to me, is the funniest myth that I see that I'm trying to crack wide open and help people see that it's just not the truth anymore, or ever probably, but certainly not during the times that I've been a part of manufacturing. Arthur, what about you, bud?
Oh, I was going to say, I hope I can jump in on this. For me, the funniest one I've heard recently is that there's no career path in it. That it's when you enter the trade, you're stuck doing that trade and there's no options for you to grow. And I have experienced the complete opposite. I know so many people like yourself and Liz, and we've all had these amazing journeys, but it's like, I just laughed. I was like, what do you mean? There's no way. You can literally start pushing a broom and end up running the company if you want to work hard enough. Like, you could do anything. You could jump companies. You could end up in media like we somehow have ended up on camera. Like, there's just so many different paths in manufacturing. So that was one I heard it, and I thought they were joshing, right? I thought they were just pulling my leg, making fun, like, because I get naive and gullible sometimes. I'm not perfect. And I thought they were having fun at my expense, and they legit believed it. And I was just flabbergasted. So that's the most recent one.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to Liz, your point earlier in this conversation about getting into manufacturing and feeling like unknowingly that it's a limited thing, right? Or a limited role. or even temporary, when you can get into every aspect. If you're an accountant, the accountant side. If you don't want to talk to people, you get into the shop or into inventory. If you want to do sales and speak with people, you can. If you want to be at the front, like every aspect of a job, other than maybe you could even be law for manufacturing or finance for now I'm questioning my own thoughts. What can't you do in manufacturing, right? Like that goes to your point.
Yeah,
Well, that's the thing.
absolutely. You can even be a nurse, right?
You could. Literally, I was in Vietnam working with Samsung. 70,000 employees. They had their own doctor's office. They had their own daycare. They had their own everything. Yes, you could be a nurse in manufacturing.
Yeah. Well, and everywhere you jump in manufacturing, your experience of the other roles actually makes you more valuable and allows you to contribute in new ways that someone in that role maybe never thought to contribute, because you have the experience of another part of it. That's the wild thing. Like, it's always built.
Yeah, one thing we absolutely need to address in manufacturing, though, is that we are a little bit behind in terms of technology. So I'll speak in my own language, coming from marketing. Manufacturers oftentimes are not the first to adopt new marketing automation or new AI tools or new digital tools to help sell products and get back to customers more quickly. And that's a huge gap that we have to close, but it's also an opportunity that I have seen a lot of younger people, students exiting high school, college, whatever, jumping on, because they can bring all of their skills that they have learned in their just growing up, right? They're absolutely skilled digital users. They're familiar with AI, and they can now bring that to the manufacturing space and bring that to all the manufacturers who need to upskill and need to get there. But I think it's a big opportunity too for the younger generations, and maybe one that can help us attract more young people to say, hey, we have a problem and we need you to fix it.
Yeah, I just bought a bullhorn the other day. Can you and I head out and just scream that to everybody? I could not agree with you more, Liz. Oh my gosh. So this is a daily fight from my side. So you come from marketing. I come from a machine shop that moved into marketing. And I've been in machine shops that have not adapted a damn thing for the last 40 years. And this frustration of mine, you could probably see smoke coming out of my ears, boiling over right now, because you are so right. And then I sit on the fence like I normally do. I take a breath, have a bit of patience, and try to understand who's running the shops and what age demographic they might be in, and how difficult it is to comprehend the race of advancement we have right now that's happening quicker than it's ever happened in written history that we know of. But in partnerships with the younger generation that grew up with phones and computers and everything in their hand versus us, as you said, fax machines earlier and pagers and, the old big giant cell phones and, everything that we went through, our generation has a little bit of the ability to adapt. Now, I would say the younger generation, it's second nature to them. You may as well put it in, like glue it to their hands. That's a part of them. Whereas our generation has seen the evolution and we've done the best we can to be a part of that growth. Whereas the generation above us, sometimes that shit is just scary and doesn't make sense. And those are typically the people that own the shops right now. And if they don't understand it, sometimes they feel like they can't manage it. But we need to be able to rely on the people around us, very much like Steve Jobs said, surround yourself with people who can do things that you can't do. And I advocate for you. And I say all of that just to ask you a follow-up question to say, how can we create confidence in these business owners to help them understand the importance of being able to compete in a modern world by adapting these technologies that will make them more profitable without being stifled by fear?
I've seen people adopt it. And as you're saying, the entrepreneurs, they're doing everything, right? We were talking earlier, they're making the parts, they're doing the accounting, they're going to the customers, they're answering the phone. They're doing so many things. If they just take a minute, maybe they'll be able to, engage in it. But one thing I tell people is just look at the numbers, right? Look at the investment that you're going to make in using some of these tools and adopting a simple lead generation option, right? A few landing pages, sending a form into your email box in your office, and see how that goes and see what happens. And then start to invest in some advertising and start to invest in maybe a new website once you get some momentum. But absolutely do not wait until it's too late right? And that's the challenge that as business owners becomes so real. And we have to work on the business and not in the business, at least some of the time.
Yeah, I would almost say if we're not adapting it already, we're already too late. I mean, we can always move forward and do the right things, but this is a yesterday thing, not even a now or not even a tomorrow thing. But we need to do that. I'm 1,000,000% with you. We need to do this now to make manufacturing modern. We have been caught by other countries in our creativity, precision, caliber, capability, growth, and output, and we need to do this. We have to do this. I don't even know how to do it more than just for you and I to grab a bullhorn and start yelling at everyone. We're doing the best we can, but we have to be able to be brave enough to take that step. To take the first step is always the most difficult step.
Absolutely.
Author, you got any follow-ups? Because if you don't, Liz has selected 2 games we're going to play today. And this is usually how we close out the show. But do you have any follow-ups before we get to those?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a reason I work for MTD, right? I don't want to get, but I was in a machine shop. They didn't get it. I went online. I couldn't get resources because there was no information. So I went to a distributor. I started making content for them, but the distributor didn't want to get on board with being more digital. And so that's how I ended up at MTD, because I want to bring more awareness and to support marketers and to support machine shops and to support everyone to bring a loudspeaker like your megaphone, but online digitally. The challenge is reaching the people that aren't online, because it's gone from a nice to have 10 years ago to a need to have now, like you said. So, but I want to play these games with Liz. I want to see how she does. I mean, is there prizes, Tony?
The games are so much fun. And Liz, before we jump in, we're going to slide into that. I just want to make sure that we've utilized your time today, because time is very valuable. It's the most expensive commodity. It's the one thing we cannot get back. It's the one thing we can't manufacture more of, which is typically how I close out this show. But I want to give you a moment. Just if I haven't asked you a question that you think is valuable for our audience today, just a moment for you to share any piece of conversation that I haven't performed well enough to ask you today.
I'm in Windsor, Vermont today at the American Precision Museum, and I have the wonderful opportunity to show you the insides of a historical landmark from 1846. And we invite you in to learn a bit more about how it all started.
When I was raising my kids, I have 2 kids at home, and I wanted to learn about manufacturing and what that meant in that world. And I think it's important. It's incredibly important. And I want to share that same experience with other children, with other adults, and make sure that they are getting the picture, the story that is being told here. And it's an origin story, the story of how the American system of manufacture started. And I want to help spread that word.
I would just like to thank you both for what you're doing, for having me on the show, for talking about these subjects. I mean, it's so important to grow the industry, and it's so important to talk about everything we have today, from the skills gap to diversity in manufacturing. I think we threw in sustainability, and now we've got digital marketing in there too, and they're all such good subjects. So thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely a pleasure. And if we shouted loud enough, we'll get your story over on Mavens of Manufacturing as well. So, Megan, listen to us. All right. Just to give you a heads up, author, Liz has chosen 2 truths and a lie. So you have about 5 minutes to think of your 2 truths and a lie. And she's also selected rapid fire questions, which is pretty much a question and you say the answer immediately, what pops into your brain. And we do like 5 of them back to back to back to back. You ready?
Oh, I got to participate. I was going to go get popcorn and just watch y'all play. Like,
you can get your popcorn, but you're participating. Whether you that is 90% of the co-host's job is to participate in the games. All right, Liz, we'll start with you. You've had a little bit of preparation for this. You probably thought long and hard about how you could lie to us today, right? So 2 truths and a lie, 2 truths and a lie. So one of my favorite people in the world, MC from AMT, did not know how to play this game, and it was an absolute trip. I highly recommend anyone who's listening and watching this podcast right now, go back to that podcast. She had no idea. It was fantastic. So just to be clear, if you haven't played this game before, you tell us 2 truths and 1 lie without giving us the answer, and we have to figure out which one is which.
Right. And just about me or manufacturing? I wasn't sure.
It's supposed to be about you, but it could be about anything. We just got to figure out what you're lying about.
So that's what I figured earlier, and you guys blew up my spot earlier when you talked about all the Ireland stuff. So now I threw it out the window. But let me give you. I'm going to be really easy. I'm going to be really simple. I'm sure Arthur will be more fun than me, but
impossible.
I'll give you a couple of mine. So the first one I'll give you is I've lived in the same state my whole life. The second one is I have a dog, and the third one is I have 2 undergraduate degrees.
I'm going to go with you've lived in the same state your whole life because you already lived in Ireland for 6 months.
Exactly, but I don't really count that one.
Oh, you don't count that. So we'll throw that to the side. And besides that, when you're living in the U.S., you've lived in the same state. Okay. Well, then is it 2 graduates? Because I did scroll through your LinkedIn and I saw one. I saw 1 graduate degree.
Yeah. You're right. Spot on.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, Arthur.
Oh.
Lie to us, baby.
All right.
Tell me
I'm
lies, tell me sweet little lies.
I'm going to pull a little inspiration from you, Liz. Okay. So I've lived in my car for 6 months, or I've got a son that's almost 21, or I've lived in the same town my whole life.
What do you think, Liz?
I think lived in the same town your whole life is the lie.
I think he has lived in the same town his whole life. He looks like one of those guys that's never left home, doesn't he? Look at him.
Could be my mom's basement, guys. I could be living in my mom's basement.
I think you might be. Look how dark it is in there. What was 1 and 2 again?
Number 1 was I've lived in my car for 6 months. Number 2 was I have a son that's almost 21. And number 3 was lived in the same town my whole life.
I think you're right, Liz. I think you're right because I'm pretty sure he's lived in his car, and I know he's got an older child. So I'm going with you, Liz.
Yeah.
So
right?
You're right. Yeah, Tony knows me too well to bluff him.
Yeah, buddy. All right, you guys ready for some rapid fire question? Liz, we'll start with you first.
Ready.
All right, so I'm going to give you a category, and there's a few options in each category that I'll go through. So general marketing and branding, creativity and innovation, marketing myths, personal opinions, challenge and success stories, or fun and wacky.
Let's do fun and wacky.
All right, we got 5 of them in here. I'm going to read them quickly. Whatever pops into your head, you say that first, and we're going to do all 5 before I switch to author. You ready?
Ready.
If CNC machines had personalities, what would yours be?
Bubbly.
Oh, I like that. Bubble machine. If marketing were a sport, what sport would it be?
Soccer.
Oh, my favorite sport. If you could only market one tool forever, what would it be?
One tool forever. Nothing's coming to mind. My KitchenAid mixer.
I bet you'd sell the hell out of those. All right. What's one item on your desk you can't live without?
I would say a water bottle.
That's a good answer,
Just
too.
Any flavor.
Water is life, darling. Water is life. If you could hire one celebrity for a manufacturing campaign, who would it be? You're on his show. You're on his show right now. I'm just teasing. Who'd you pick?
Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. He's the best.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
He's great.
I like that. Yeah, super cool guy. All right, author. Challenges and success stories, personal opinions, marketing myths, creativity and innovation, or general marketing and branding?
Oh, what was the third one?
Oh, gosh, I went from the bottom. Hold on. Third one was marketing myths.
Oh, no. What was the one before that?
Personal opinions.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Oh, that sounds like you. Let's hear your opinion, buddy. You ready to spill those opinions?
Oh, God. Okay.
All right, we got 1, 2, 3. There's 6 on this one, so you're going to do 6.
Okay.
Favorite manufacturing ad of all time?
Oh, favorite manufacturing ad of all time.
All time. Yeah.
Oh my God. How what?
You know what mine is? It's that
yeah.
recent beer commercial or tequila commercial with those women like welding their car and then driving the car to go show it off with the hydraulics and everything. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I think it might be Modelo or something like that. I was like, this is awesome. It's the three women making their own car.
Okay. Well, that makes me, I can't remember the brand, but it was where someone was driving down the road and it did like an exploded view of the car and it showed like all the different components. I really liked like the intricate details they gave. I can't remember the brand name though. I just remember the car like came apart while the guy was driving it and then it went together. It was some car ad.
Whoever is watching and listening right now, leave it in the comments and let Arthur know. All right. Worst marketing jargon ever invented.
Worst marketing jargon.
Can I say one?
Yeah.
We've got the meats. The meat sweats. What kind of marketing jargon is that? Arby's. We've got the meat sweats. Like, come on.
Oh God. I would say the Nike Do It. I don't like it. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Them and LL Cool J love that Do It. Doing it and doing it and doing it well. Doing it and doing it and doing it well. Anyway, that's my old hip hop days. All right, next one. One trend you wish would go away.
Oh, the sensationalism on manufacturing ads. I love the attention it brings to manufacturing, but it's just so stupid and impractical. It just drives me nuts.
All right. If your marketing strategy had a theme song, what would that theme song be?
Oh, what's the name of that song from Rocky where he's like marching up, jumping? I'm aging myself. Yeah. That's the one.
That one?
Yeah, Eye of the Tiger. Yeah, that's the one.
You do have the Eye of the Tiger. All right. If you could rebrand any manufacturing company, who would it be?
Like manufacturer? Like we're talking tooling or we're talking like CNC company or something?
This sentence says if you could rebrand any manufacturing company, who would it be? I think you get to choose.
Ooh. I would rebrand Ford Motor Company.
Oh, that could be a podcast all on its own. All right, last one before we dive into that.
Oh, God.
Best social media platform for manufacturers.
MTDCNC. Come on, that's a no-brainer.
And I did not set this up whatsoever. It's like a magic trick.
No.
They just happened to fall into place. Liz, thank you so much for being on the show today. We love you. We appreciate you. We admire you. Thank you for being exactly who you are.
Thank you, guys. It was great to talk with you and great to be here.
Yeah.
Arthur, thank you for co-hosting with me today. You're absolutely brilliant. For everyone watching and listening today, I hope you've enjoyed your time as much as we've enjoyed spending it with you. And as I close every show out, time is the one thing we cannot manufacture more of yet. Just stay tuned. But until then, if you shared your time with us, we truly, truly appreciate you. And we hope to see you again soon.